What's going on, you rogues, rebels, renegades, and rascals? Welcome to episode 57 of the Rogue Country podcast. I am Mike West, and thank you so much for tuning in. First of all, an apology to Josh Bettis and the Welsh people as a whole. I apologise for calling your t-shirt Cymru and Western. As an uneducated Englishman, I took a guess at the thing I'd only read on science. I'd never heard it actually pronounced, and I did my best. And that's all that really matters, except now where I can actually correct it. And I believe it is now Cymru and Western. I say it's now Cymru. It's always been Cymru and Western. I've just not been able to pronounce it up until now, but that was thanks to Josh Bettis' wonderful TikTok videos and how to pronounce what he's actually selling. Thank you so much, Josh, and congratulations on selling out your Cymru and Western t-shirts. I look forward to the reprint. Coming up on the 28th of December, I hope you have your tickets for the Rogue Country Christmas Roundup. We're having it on the 28th of December at Future Yard in Birkenhead, and it's going to be myself with Brandon Ridley and Megan Lee. It's going to be phenomenal, and I'm just going to break down some behind-the-scenes stuff for you because I think it's really important. We all know, or we should all know, that right now, gigs live and die by the pre-sale tickets. If you are thinking of getting your ticket on the door, that's cool, but I strongly urge you to buy in advance from the websites, buy from the artists, or whatever you need to do, because that is how gigs are actually feasible. That's how we know people are actually going to be attending. We can't rely on 20, 30, 40 people showing up on the door, because we need to know in advance that this is actually going to work and everyone's going to get paid and everyone's going to have a good time. With that being said, the Rogue Country Christmas Roundup 3 weeks ago, we were on 2 tickets. Which, if I'm being honest, and we try and be as honest as we can here at Rogue Country, that's not a great start. That's not an amazing thing to hear that we've only sold 2 tickets to a show. But a week ago, I got in touch with the venue and asked how many tickets we sold. We jumped from 2 to 8, which, again, that's good going. It's not incredible, but for independent country artists in Birkenhead, in the Wirral, in the northwest of the UK, that's not too bad, that. But then we gave it another push, and this week I'm happy to say we're up to 17 tickets sold, which I am absolutely buzzing about. I've said pre-sales aren't doing that well across the entire board in the UK, and even in the States, across the world, pre-sale tickets aren't doing that well. But we've jumped from 2 tickets to 17 tickets, and that is because of the power of the people. And I cannot thank everyone who has bought a ticket so far. You're guaranteeing that this show can go ahead, the artists can get paid, and we're going to raise some money for Wirral Arc, the local homelessness charity. Thank you so much. Please go and buy your tickets if you can come to this show. We urge you to. It's going to be a phenomenal way to close out 2022. If you'd like to know more about our gigs, because we've got some doozies coming up in 2023 that I am not allowed to talk about yet, but if you would like to know about those things, you can sign up to our mailing list, which is over on our social medias. It's over on our link tree. It's going to be at the link of this podcast in the bottom of the description, and you can find out all the information that we're going to be cooking up for the next year. It's going to be incredible, and you can be the first to know. You can also be the first to see videos like what we've just released with another segment on our Rogues on the Road from October. We've got the brilliant Chris Dover with his Billy song, which is a phenomenal song, and it's the opener of his brilliant album, It's a Difficult World, and you can go watch that right now over on our YouTube. But enough about me, enough about Rogue Country. Let's get on to our main event, the reason we are here, the mighty Pierce Edens. I adore Pierce's music. I found him a long time ago, and we talked about this after we'd finished recording. I found him, I think it was through a Spotify playlist, again, toting the good things about Spotify. And as you know, I lean a lot further over to the darker, heavier side of country music, and that's what I bring to Rogue Country, and Pierce Eden's music fit perfectly into that. I've been a fan since I started listening to him, and I've wanted him on the podcast for a while, and it made sense with this news. A Life in Trade, his brand new album, is now up for pre-order on Kickstarter. You can be part of the campaign to make sure that album gets made, gets pressed into vinyl, and gets into your hands and around the world to all the other people who dig it. The Kickstarter link will be in the bio or in the description of this podcast. It's all over his social medias, which we'll also be linking to. And Pierce is a great guy. This was a great chat about composting, promoting music, touring, a lot of things that we got into for this hour chat, and we're going to share it with you right now. So without further ado, this is episode 57 of the Rogue Country podcast with Pierce Edens. Cool. So we're rolling. Thanks so much for sitting down with us today. Obviously, you've got your new album coming up that you're kickstarting and stuff, but I'm glad I got to speak to you, especially, we're in the final month of 2022. It's been 10 years since your self-titled record came out in 2012.
Yeah.
That's the record I kind of found you on and really fell in love with your music and your songwriting. With
Well,
that
thank you.
10-year perspective, what does that album mean to you now? Has it changed in the last 10 years? Has it made more of
Well,
an impact?
it's funny that you mention it because yeah, we're actually doing a reprint now. Like guys, I've never actually printed that album on vinyl before now.
Mm,
Uh, so I've been diving back into that thing, and we remastered it for a local vinyl press here in Asheville, North Carolina.
mm,
Um, and getting that thing printed up on vinyl for the first time ever in this coming year. So yeah, I just gotta because I don't generally put it on,
yeah.
like it was a piece of work, and I enjoyed doing it, and I don't mind hearing it when other people play it, but I don't
Mm,
usually put it on myself,
yeah.
and so like it was interesting to put it back on, like again to work on it, and like get it remastered for the vinyl, and just connect with it again and be like, oh yeah, I remember how it felt doing the thing,
Mm,
because it was in addition to just being the first, like sort of release that I went out on my own, like I had, sort of a local like bar band sort of set up, playing gigs around
mm,
the area and whatnot. And we had put together, like a couple of albums to get gigs with and whatnot, but this was kind of my first solo effort.
mm,
And yeah, like just I recorded it at my old homestead, like where I am now
mm,
and everything. So it was a real personal recording, and it held up, like I was listening to it and it brought me right back
mm.
to exactly that time period, and yeah, it was a cool thing to revisit.
Yeah. Cool, man. I can imagine, like, obviously you've been playing them songs or you've been playing some of those songs live still, but
Yep.
you don't really realize you'll sound slightly older and slightly different how you perform
Mhm.
them now compared to them. Was that interesting to hear you kind of be 10 years younger and doing those songs as you were remastering them?
For sure. Like there was a couple of them, like that I was listening to. I was like, oh man, that's slowed down over the years. It mellowed out a little bit. Like some of the rough edges are either rougher or smoother than they used to be.
Mm,
Like, and so yeah, it was interesting also just to hear the choices that we were making. Like,
mm,
and how like the live show now, we sort of make different choices with them. Like
mm.
take them in different directions, let moments breathe differently, just because a lot of those songs were brand new when I was recording them as
Yeah.
well. And now, like you say, I've had 10 years of sitting with them and know them differently now.
Mm. And with kind of obviously you've been remastering that, so that's kind of fresher in your mind, and you've been working on this new record.
Yeah.
Lyrically and kind of mentally, have you noticed any similarities or glaring differences compared to your perspective back then to now?
Um, I think I don't know. I've settled more into sort of the storytelling aspect of
Mm,
songwriting. I think I'm much more comfortable. Like not just getting to the chorus, not focusing so much on like making the song catch.
yeah.
Like, and rather than just letting it say whatever it is that I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I think like also like I think with the perspective of age, like just the content of what I'm talking about has shifted as well.
Mm,
Like um, it's just a little bit different.
mm,
Like the perspective that I come from
mm.
anymore.
Yeah. Cool, man. And like going way back to the beginning, what was kind of your influence and music, like upbringing? What was it that gravitated towards wanting to pick up a guitar and like learning to sing and, becoming a musician and writing your own songs?
Totally. Well, I mean, where I grew up, like it's sort of a hotbed is Madison County, North Carolina, and it's
Mm,
up in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains, and there's a real old time music tradition around.
mm,
Like, and by mistake or by design, our house just didn't have any recorded music in it. We didn't have a
mm,
television, like just growing up, it was just kind of, so if you wanted to hear it, you kind of had to sing it yourself,
mm,
like and there were a lot of like old time music festivals, folk festivals,
mm,
and people just sort of picking around, and so music was it just like I said, by accident or by design, it just became one of those things that people did rather than
Yeah.
you listen to. Like, and so I picked up a guitar. Took My dad really wanted us to learn how to. He has sort of an unrequited desire to play music and never really like sunk into it, and so he made sure that that was kind of like he put a guitar in our hands early, and I took a couple of lessons when I was in like it was like 10 or 11 or something. Like, and I'm left-handed, and so he got me a left-handed guitar to play on, and it didn't really stick. Like I was too young for it. Didn't it? The interest didn't hold. I learned enough to get started, and then sort of stopped there. And then, a couple of years later, wanted to start a garage band with my brother and play, like sort of that, because we had discovered, like what recorded music was, and Pearl Jam and Nirvana and all those things were happening then, and we wanted to do that. And so I sort of taught myself again on his guitar. So I had to switch over from the left hand to the right hand and start over. And that was just as well because we were just, like banging out bar chords and making those big, loud, distorted noises.
Yeah.
Just getting into like that sort of raw emotion thing that was so big in grunge music and so appealing to me as a, like a teenager,
Yeah.
Yeah, and the songwriting sort of followed from that because we just needed something to play, and so we drew straws, and I ended up being the singer. None of us wanted to do it, and then from that I started to care about what I was saying, and that's when it really kind of took, and so been stuck writing songs since.
No, that's so cool. I think you don't kind of realize the kind of old-time traditional folk stuff. It wasn't really until like Nirvana's Unplugged where you realize how close those two genres are really connected.
Yeah,
so
totally.
It kind of makes perfect sense if you're going from like old-time music as like a younger kid hitting your teens and adolescence and you break into grunge. It's like it just goes hand in hand with it. But what?
Right, you just play old time tunes and turn them up real loud, and then suddenly you've got like sort of punk and grunge music and country music. Like it's there's not the lines are very blurry between all of them.
Yeah, but with that saying, it's like obviously you started to sing and then you realize you had to like you needed to say something. Were there any lyricists or singers that kind of influenced? Was it like Eddie Vedder, and was there a political edge to what you wanted to do in terms of sending a message, or was it just trying to forge your own identity in your lyrics?
Yeah, I mean, like Eddie Vedder definitely was a big influence, like, and from like sort of that Pearl Jam influence, ended up like moving on towards like Neil Young, and then also like all throughout, like like I said, we got the recorded music, and my dad is a big Bob Dylan fan, like, and so that was playing around, and that felt very familiar, like because growing up going to folk festivals and whatnot, like it's like, oh yeah, this guy, he's doing that, and like, and then like all the songwriters that like sort of fall from there, like, I mean, you end up in like John Prine, and I found like Tom Waits, and that was that became a major influence as well, and so like, and then I guess like sort of the through line that brought me through to all of those was again those kind of that storytelling song, like people with like the different things that they had to say said differently through different like kind of songwriting forms. It was like, oh, you can do more than just get to the chorus.
Yeah. No, I think because that's like the interesting thing, because
excuse me, got my dog with me.
It's okay. Because I remember the first grunge band I was really excited about and knew was Nirvana. And I remember it really bummed me out to be like when Cobain, he didn't really put thought into his lyrics. And a lot of it was just kind of like it needed to hit the beat and it needed to fit the mark and fit the vibe. And that was kind of what he was going for. While, Eddie Vedder, you start pulling apart songs like Jeremy and you're like, holy fuck, this is like a story. And then it's you start peeling those layers back. And that's where like country and folk is just steeped in those type of story songs that just grab your attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like and like and I'd say like also because I mean I always felt like Kurt and Nirvana, like he was sort of painting with words, like he was,
Yeah.
like you weren't sure where he was going, and like there wasn't like a narrative around it,
Yeah.
but you could kind of get a feeling from like what he was talking about, whatever that was, and that was always interesting too. There's a local fellow around here that I grew up seeing. His name's Malcolm Holcomb, and like a acoustic songwriter fella, and he does that same sort of word painting uh thing, but in a much more sort of folk sort of tradition. Like, and so to see those two things kind of happening at the same time was like, oh, yeah, it really is a one for one here. Like you can go where you want to with this, like, because a song isn't a story, it's a song.
Yeah.
But you can incorporate elements of storytelling into it, or not. You can really just make word soup and see what that feels like. And,
Yeah.
yeah, because I was like, this is an aside, but I was talking to another songwriter friend of mine. We were just comparing notes about this. Like it was like how do you get started on a thing? And we both sort of like lit up because we were talking about that songwriter language where you just kind of find the vowels and you sound like an idiot for a good long while. Like it just finding where the breaths are and the ooh. Oh no, this song feels more than ooh. And yeah, like yeah, and so but I think that gets into that sort of like that feeling your way into a song and a story from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. I've just been reading Rob Halford's brought out a new book called Biblical.
Okay.
And it's about, he did like his Judas Priest autobiography, and then this is kind of like an A to Z of his experiences. So it goes from like what you should do about getting a lawyer to a band manager to touring and stuff. And I'm only kind of 50, 60 pages into it. But he has a section on songwriting, which I thought was really interesting to see a metal writer's perspective. Because they have an album and he writes the title first. And he'll write, say they've got 10 songs, he'll write 10 pieces of paper out with 10 titles and then bullet point what that title has word connoted, like connotated to it. So he'll have like firepower, and then it'll be like destruction, fire, and it'll be like words associated to that title, and then he'll write a song and write lyrics based off of those things. I thought that was I'd never seen someone kind of write from that perspective first. It was like title first, bullet points, and kind of brainstorming similar words.
Well, that sort of makes sense in terms of metal too, because I mean, like that's so much built on just that punch and that feel. So start at the high point and build from there. That kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Though like it would have never occurred to me on my own.
No, that's the thing. I remember I had a university professor. He always used to say, "What would you name your puppy?" Because he's like, whatever you name your puppy, you kind of instill traits into it from that name. And then that dog will kind of grow up representing that name, even if you didn't necessarily mean for it to. And he always said, with compositions, name your puppy. So try and name it first, and then that will at least give you some vibes. And I thought it's an interesting thing. I've done it occasionally, but for the most part, it is kind of sounding out those words and like that phrasing, and then the vibes to fit it. And then trying to think of what to fill it in. It's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of almost the opposite of what I do. Like I end up with a song, and then like the last thing to come through is the title on the thing. Like I have so many songs called the new song until like it's time to make an album, and I have to actually put it in print. So it was be on stage. I'm playing anymore with this one fella, Kevin Reese. He's my long time bandmate, and it's sort of whittled its way down into a duo show anymore. Like it's just me and him traveling around most of the time. And I'll be like, "Hey, Kevin, let's play the new song." And he'll be like, "Which one?" So the new one. The old new one.
The middle new one.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But with kind of touring and having that back catalog, have you seen, as you've been playing, like obviously COVID kind of put part of that for a bit, but as being an independent musician, have you seen those songs resonate with people in different ways? Obviously, we've talked about like the 10-year gap, but as you've been playing to like a wider audience and to different people, more people coming back to the shows, have you seen those songs resonating with people, and then that kind of might inform the title or how you deliver it next, or inspire the next new song?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a conversation happening for sure, um at the beginning, like just playing, like you were saying, getting started, like it was kind of a one-sided conversation, like you'd go
Mm,
out and you'd see what worked, and that, and then from that you like kind of inform yourself. But now it's been years and years, and Kevin and I were grinding pretty hard, traveling all over the United States, and playing lots of shows, and like you get to where like you start to understand what works where and
mm,
why. Like you start to hear back from folks who have been coming to the shows, and come back, and you get to make friends with people, and find out what hooked them in, and
mm,
why, and so, like, yeah, like, I don't know, I keep returning to that, like, sort of what do you want to say, that just like keeping that sort of front and center,
mm,
like, but with the travel and the playing, you just have a lot more opportunities to have something to say,
mm.
something interesting, that wouldn't have occurred to you otherwise,
Yeah.
like, yeah. So that's changed, I think, part of how I
Mm,
come to it.
yeah.
I can think like, oh, this one feels like Iowa,
Mm.
you know, in a way that I wouldn't have known. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was just watching the Tales from the Tour Bus last night, and it was the Blaze Foley episode. And I didn't know, and he's saying it, it's like while he was playing songs, he'd pull out like pictures of the people the songs were about to pass around the crowd as like he
Huh.
was playing. And I was like, that's a really interesting like weight to like add to those songs. It's enough to like what we do is kind of telling stories through song, but to actually pull out the person, be like, it's this motherfucker and
Right.
hand it to people. I thought that was a really, I'd never heard of anyone else really doing that before. And I guess
Yeah.
if you were a bigger artist, you could kind of project it on the back if you were in, some other way. But like, it's a really intimate thing. I thought that was a really cool
Yeah.
thing to get
Like
people's attention.
a portrait in
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Blaze Foley, man. Yeah, he could weave a yarn, that guy. Been yeah, digging back into him and Towns Van Zandt and whatnot, and and just those guys that were kicking it there for a little bit.
Mm.
Uh, just reacquainting myself with those songwriters over the last like year and a half, 2 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've just picked up like two Old Towns records that have been reissued. I picked them up the other week and I've not sat down to listen to them yet, but it is something about revisiting them, even like going back to John Prine. It's
Hmm.
it's good when a piece of art, it can say one thing to you like one year, and then you can be in a different headspace another year and you'll pick up on a different inflection or a different line. You're like, fuck. It just like
Yeah.
hits like a whole new level.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, there's something to that resonation too, because
Mm.
yeah, that's kind of what I was saying about like how at beginning, starting out, it was just kind of a one-sided conversation,
Mm.
but that has really changed. As you return to folks, like people pick up on different things, and sort of show me what I'm saying as well,
Mm.
because I the line I keep returning to is like, a song ain't much without the receiving ears to hear it.
Yeah.
And I find that to be more and more true.
Mm.
Like the more people listening, the more chance you have of finding out like what it is that actually that you're communicating.
Yeah, no. So I think that I kind of, it's like the sound of one hand clapping, or if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it. That's
Yeah,
like if a tree falls, it's the same thing. If a song's written with no one else to hear it, did it happen? Like you can sing it to yourself, and it goes back to like kind of those YouTube bedroom shredders and stuff. And it's like it's all well and good to write those ones till someone else hears it and takes it in. Is it a song? Is it a piece of
right,
art that has like a depth to it? It's an interesting kind of thing to
right,
think of, and it has to be shared. I think no
right.
matter the state of it.
Exactly. And that was kind of the perspective I think I got from growing up with, like folks just playing music.
Mm.
Like it was like, oh, this is a social thing.
Yeah.
Like you practice in your bedroom, and you listen to yourself as much as you can, but you don't really know if you're playing a song until you have those receivers out there.
Mm.
It's yeah, it is a back and forth. It is
Mm,
communication, and that requires two
yeah.
active parties.
No, totally. And outside of kind of music, have you been influenced lyrically or musically by like TV or film or literature or anything? Has there been anything that's kind of resonated you outside of music?
Oh, yeah, like I mean, I like studied philosophy and just sort of dove into a lot of like the deep thinkers and the
Mm,
thinking underneath the thinking and whatnot, and so that has always provided like sort of a depth of perspective like on whatever it is that you're
mm,
consuming, like if that's TV or reading or listening to other songwriters or music or whatever, like so like what is like you're trying to get to, like kind of the bass note, the root of what's being said,
mm,
what are we trying to do here, like, and so when you think about things that way, anything can kind of strike you and become
mm,
an influence into the like into like a song, and um like that happens in the real world as well, which is like not just like film or TV or whatever, but you just driving down the highway, see something on the side of the road, and it just resonates
mm.
enough that it can become a line in a song or something,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And was that how A Life in Trade was kind of born from like the Kickstarter description I read? It was because of all the handyman work you were doing around like the farm and building your own studio. Was that kind of where that creative process started, or did you have those songs kind of kicking around and those kind of refined and cemented into your head through that work?
Kind of combination of the two,
Mm,
like I put everything sort of on pause, like when the pandemic hit,
yeah.
like as far musically speaking, like in terms of like touring or recording or any of that sort of, like stuff that you do whenever, like
Yeah.
you're trying to build up like a living in music. And that was all just sort of put on halt, like, and so that just opened up a lot of time and space in my head to do, like you were saying, all these other things, because I've been driving around in the van playing shows and reading composting books, like on separate stuff, like, and so you end up saying to yourself, like, oh, if I ever get the time, I'm gonna do this, that, and the other thing, and so suddenly I had time, and it was like, all right, well, shit or get off the pot here, like, so yeah, like doing all that stuff, like I had, like sort of the embryos of songs
Mm,
kicking around from, like from touring and live and
mm,
just being behind the guitar all the time. Like you just sort of riff around. You have an idea here. Think like,
yeah.
oh, if I get time, I'll dive into this line here. I'm always scribbling in the journal, so there was
Yeah.
like a collection of lines or drawings or just ideas, kicking
Mm,
around, and those sat by themselves for a little while I was, composting or knocking trees over, getting chickens and raising bunnies, and like, and just focused elsewhere. And they like, and so, like when I came back to it, months later, it kind of came together pretty quickly and
mm,
pretty naturally, because my friend Mike Savino, Tall Trees and
yeah.
Kishibai, he was building his studio in at his house, like, and this was, like now 2021 or so. So, like that 6 week hiatus that we were on, that was going to be the pandemic, had
Yeah.
now ground on for a year, and was like, okay, well, maybe this is just how it is now. And so, yeah, I was just picking up work, and he knew me through, music, and
Mm,
heard that I was doing carpentry or whatever, and called me up. And so, like, that just seemed like, all right, well, this is kicking back into gear here, like I'm back in the music world
yeah.
via carpentry. So let's just run this down, see where it goes. And
Mm,
yeah, sure enough, like, yeah, that was followed by, like a sort of a creative explosion, like of just like demoing, out songs and ideas
mm,
and all those things that had sort of sat for a while. It came just sort of percolating out, and yeah, the whole thing came together and just like like one piece after another, just
Mm.
like
Oh,
stacking rides.
yeah. Awesome.
Awesome.
And with building the studio, was like, did Mike have a vision of how the studio needed to look and what was going in it, or was it a collaboration on kind of what you needed? And it was a big studio to record like a full band, like drums and stuff, or is it more of a smaller setup?
Yeah, it's sort of medium sized. I would call it. Like I mean, it's small. I think in terms of commercial studio, but
Yeah.
it's big for a home studio.
Yeah.
Like you can do a full band in there, and like when we bounced a couple of ideas off, like of what, but he had a few things set in stone already, ready to go. Like was like, okay, it has to be like this, that,
Yeah.
and this. I want it, to sort of sound this way, and get that wooden feel, and have a nice, like, sort of vibey
Yeah.
live room, so that you can set the microphone in the right place, like, and really get the feel of the space. Like that was the main thing that we were building towards, as far as, and then from that, like a couple of things, just as you build a thing, it kind of comes together. It's like it becomes clear, like, oh, this is where the sound booth is going to be.
Mm.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We'll build a little alcove here for all the equipment that's going to run through here, and we'll put a door here so that we can get sound isolation from, like the drum kit or whatever.
Yeah.
Or put the guitar amps out in the garage, or like, we can bother the neighbors with
Yeah.
this piece, but we'll keep this piece to ourselves.
Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
before we go back on studio and stuff, I just wanted to, because I've been thinking about composting, because I rebuilt my garden in 2020 while we were locked down for longer than we thought. Like, it was just like decking from the previous like residents, and it just sogged and rotted through. So I ripped it all up, built like a whole different place, and like I want to grow vegetables and stuff there. But I have been thinking about composting because there's so much food waste that it just annoys me to like get rid of it. But what was the kind of plan behind yours, and what do you do to like compost and stuff?
Okay, well, I like the three pillars of compost, like is nitrogen, carbon, and I think it's phosphorus. Like the NPK, they call it. And so for me, like the system I've landed on, and this is part of the reason why I'm so busy this time of year, is because like it's like I have 3 full-time jobs, and none of them have anything to do with each other, and so it's just the way it goes. But like you got to get a bunch of carbon material, like, and so that's known as brown compost. So that can be paper, cardboard is great. Shred up a bunch of cardboard, or leaves. I get leaves from my there's a neighborhood that has a lot of oak trees, and I prefer the oak leaves for mine, just because they're very clean. I don't end up with a bunch of twigs and sticks and whatnot. So those are good for composting as well. They're just more long term. Like, and so if I'm pulling like a 6-week or a 12-week compost, I'll change my carbon materials a bit. And then the nitrogen, which is like kitchen scraps and food waste, and like what you were talking about. Or if you have a lawn, like all the clippings from the lawn work great as a green compost. And then for me, like I use the manure from the chickens and the rabbit as sort of the final ingredient in my compost. Or you can work your way towards compost as well, with like just get a couple of red wiggler worms from the local bait shop or whatever. Toss them in. They love living in like wet shredded cardboard, and they'll eat your kitchen scraps and turn your compost into just gardening gold.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. It's one of those weird things. Like, I've been watching the Zac Efron documentary on Netflix, Down to Earth.
Okay,
and it's really interesting because, like we were talking before we hit record, where it's been the hottest summer, but it's also like today's been crazy for cold, and it is, climate change and the environmental stuff. It's so mind-bogglingly big. So if I'm just thinking, if I can just scale it down and do one thing that can be like, I'm trying to make some sort of difference in my head. It's just,
we got to go this way. We've been going this way for a while. Let's just ticket one to the left here. Absolutely. That figures heavily into my philosophy behind the whole thing too, is, just bring it back to local, because then your footprint on the planet is so much smaller, and that's the way we need to do it.
Yeah.
It seems to me.
Yeah.
And it's also, like I said, it was sort of a latent passion of mine, when, like we were out touring so much, it wasn't an option,
Yeah.
just because, you can't compost in a tour van. That's disgusting. The tour van's gross enough already,
Yeah.
so, just to be able to actually sink in and make that be part of my life, as well. That figured into the title as well, just because, I think we all got a time back in 2020
Yeah.
in a way that we hadn't for a while. Everybody, just pressed pause for a second. And then it was a lot longer than a second. And whether we wanted to or not, had the time to actually think, like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah.
And how do I want to do it? And so, farming, gardening, homesteading, that became my life in a way that it hadn't been able to before. And so it occurred to me, no matter what you're doing, you're trading your life for something, and so trading time for time just felt so appropriate to make a record, because putting this time into a record and trading it one thing for another.
With everything kind of stopping and slowing down, did that affect how you saw your music career going forward? Like, did you realize you had to be on the road like 24/7, 365, or has it kind of made you think to be more selective about how and where you play? Because obviously you've got compost bins to think about now. So it's
right. Well, it wasn't intentional, but I just ended up collecting so many animals, 10 chickens, 2 bunnies, a couple of dogs, and a couple of cats, and suddenly, I've seen it happen with my peers, whatnot, around the music business. Was like when you start to put down roots somewhere, then you become a lot more selective about the part of the reason why we ended up sort of touring around as a duo was because then you only had 2 rents to pay, fewer cats to herd, and we didn't have to be selective. We could just kind of go and see and find out, oh, is this going to be a good gig, or is this going to be one of those ones where you drive all night long and get paid with a pizza, and take your hits and try again next time, and so there's that, just by default, there's a lot more selection kind of going into where the live show happens and when. And that has been, I think, valuable too, because it allows us to sort of change our approach, in a way, that I'm super into. Again, we just do anything for long enough, and it just becomes your life, and you forget to put some intention into it. And that was starting to happen for us when we were playing just night after night after night. So it's been very valuable, I think, to just take a beat and decide what we want to do with it again.
No, totally. And because you kickstarted Stripped Down, Go See Up in 2017. You kickstarted that back, had embraced the internet and that kind of you'd embrace the internet and that kind of like viewpoint and stuff. So did that kind of inform, obviously you've kickstarted the new album, so have you tried to continue to build that kind of internet presence? Because it does obviously mean you can be more selective and you can make income as a musician while having to go out to do all those tour shows.
And one of the things that I sort of stumbled upon during the pandemic as well is I started, streaming like so many people did. Was like, well, let's try this, and that sort of accidentally got me more involved in the internet, in a way that from the house, that allowed me to stay home and take care of the things that I was taking care of as well. And so, yeah, like it just sort of underlines what I think you're saying is that, like there's not just one way to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to just accept that, like your life happens on the road
Mm.
anymore.
Yeah.
Even though I think, like there, like people call and I want to go, I don't think that there's any sort of replacing that live music, that really
No.
bringing it back down to, just taking as few steps between the voice and the ears as you
Mm.
can,
Yeah.
you know. But in this modern day and age, there's room for other things too.
Mm.
Um, and so you can sort of yeah, pick your way through. Like there's just a lot of different ways to go about it,
Mm.
more so than maybe ever before.
Yeah. Mm.
So
Yeah. No, totally. I'm with like Kickstarting back in 2017.
mhm.
Kickstarter for me, it's always kind of been, I've always backed kind of comic books through it and stuff.
Oh,
I've never really seen music have that much of a presence on it. Obviously, Pledge Music happened a few years ago and shit the bed and ruined kind of crowdfunding for a lot of people. But
uh-huh.
Kickstarter has always been quite solid. Back in 2017, do you remember the thought process and the reasons kind of behind crowdfunding an album that way, as opposed to, going into thousands of pounds of credit card debts like most musicians end up doing and stuff? Because I'm looking at Kickstarter and my next record, and it is, you don't want to be bankrupting yourself every time you want to make a record.
Right. Well, and for me, I saw it and I thought immediately, like, oh, this is a pre-sale platform. Like I can just use this to, like take orders on a record that people want.
Yeah.
And if people want it enough, then I can use that money to make the record. Like it's just, it's just sort of getting, like asking people to trust me to pay me up front for a record
Yeah.
that I then send out. Like, and that was like the original thinking. I was like, oh, well, I'll just do that. And then that way I can kind of do more with the release, because, by the time that Stripped Down Gussied Up came around, I had learned enough about the music business to figure out that most of the promotion for a record happens before it's out.
Yeah.
Like in a counterintuitive sort of way. Like I didn't know that going into it. And it's been a very sort of do-it-yourself kind of music career for me anyway, just because I'm a do-it-yourself kind of guy, and I didn't know better. And so like that, so having like that Kickstarter sort of show up, like on Stripped Down Gussied Up, and getting funded for that, and realizing that there were in fact people willing to donate to the thing, like even more so than just buying a record, like really getting invested and wanting to help out was like that sort of dropped the scales off my eyes. I was like, oh well, people want to be involved in this. Let's get out of the way. Let's let them help. So that was kind of the thinking in returning to it, was like, oh well, let's send it out to the people and
yeah, jumping back into it and going back to like on a personal level, like promoting a record, what you were saying about like if the promotion's done beforehand, I always thought it's fucked up, especially for independent artists, because when you have, the Springsteens or the Taylor Swifts or the Adeles or whoever, they can afford to be doing like a 6-month PR campaign before it releases. Independent artists don't have the luxury of doing that. All the promo we can really afford to do is after the record's out. But most publications and most people who are journalists or reviewers, once it's past like a month old, they don't give a fuck. And it's such a hard thing to do as an independent artist, is to break any level of ground to promote a new record prior to your release.
Yeah, for sure. It's a grind, and I've I've picked up a few things here and there, but yeah, like you say, it's the nature of the beast is just built for those that are already established, already in the industry. It's just how it is. And I think it's a shame, but I'm done yelling at a mountain for being uphill. Like it's just all right. That's it. I still want to do music, so that's the giant I have to tackle. And so like the Kickstarter becomes sort of like a major asset in that regard, because then like I was saying, is that even though I can't afford to do it, like the Bruce Springsteens or the Taylor Swifts of the world,
Mm.
like with a little bit of funding, like before the record's out, I can afford to do something,
Yeah.
like and that's usually been enough for me, because I'm just happy to be here, all I need is enough to keep the train on the track, you know,
Yeah.
so uh yeah, that's where it goes. I'll eat out of the garden and then go play the show.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
make it work.
But no, I think that's a really interesting thing, and that's what I enjoyed about kind of the Kickstarter write up, because I think there's from the day we're recording, I think there's 20 days left on the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
Um,
thereabouts.
and I was reading up on it, and it is interesting to you are a seasoned musician, you are aware of the challenges and the mountains of the music industry, and you factored them kind of into this Kickstarter campaign to take people on that journey to know what it's like to be an independent musician. With kind of the team you're working with, were they people you've built relationships up before with, and you've obviously heard of and seen the work that they do to bring it into
Yeah,
your camp to try and get your new album out?
yeah, absolutely. Like for instance, right now I'm not at home. I'm in the office of my good friend Mary Lynn, who runs like a business of her own called In Blue Handmade, and it's like leather goods and whatnot. And
Mm.
it's been she's a dear friend of mine that I've met through like shows and stuff, and just she helps me out with merchandising and fulfilling orders and whatnot, because that's she's a whiz at it, and I
Mm.
like I said, I had no real talent for computers at all, much less like order fulfillment or merchandising or any
Mm.
of the shipping considerations, all the things that like I never sat down behind a guitar to do.
Yeah.
But independent musicians and independent folks of all kinds know that like as soon as you decide to be independent, then you've got a number of hats to wear that
Yeah.
may or may not fit, but you got to put them on anyway.
Mm.
And so like I've developed these relationships over the years, just ending up like just trying to figure out how to, like I said, keep the train on the tracks. And
Mm.
so with publicity and like like venues and booking and management and promotion and all the things that like I said, I never really set out to do.
Yeah.
When I sat down behind a guitar, I've got like close friends who have been helping me out. At this point, they're close
Mm.
friends. I started out like it's just yeah, people we met through doing shows and started working together and whatnot. No,
Mm.
so like I'm real excited about like, because all of these people I've met since Stripped Down Gussie Death, the last album, came out, and so yeah, I'm really excited to have had like the time over the pandemic to take a breath
Yeah.
and get prepared, and then also like that time to really kind of flush out those relationships that I'd built over the years and plug them into
Mm.
now this application. See,
Yeah.
with like a little bit of money gathered together from the Kickstarter and a little bit of intention put into where we
Yeah.
want to go now. Like, let's see if we can't build something new and extend our reach even further.
Mm. No, totally, man. It is one of those things where being an independent musician, you realize it's 20% music if you're lucky, and then 80% admin, because you are your own booking agent, your own manager, and you are just like, because I remember Mark Maron once said, people will only help you, or it's like you only start to make money when you make other people money, and it's only when someone else gives a fuck that like it can actually start like growing and stuff. And you always have to be your biggest advocate. You always have to be the one willing to like put in the most work, because no one wants your success more than you. And
Yeah,
you are always the one who has to be that driving force. And it is one of
right.
those things where if you aren't willing to be your own manager and be your own booking agent for a good chunk of time, why would
Yeah.
anyone else?
Right. Like yeah, exactly. I think that used to be the model way back in the day when the music business, like there were people that will scout around and be like, oh, I can grow
Yeah.
this from a seed to a tree. At
Mm.
this point, that's long gone. Like, I mean, if it was ever a thing at all,
Mm.
like I don't know that there was ever that kind of support, just speculative, like
No.
support around. And regardless, I don't care what business you're in, like you can't pay people to love your thing.
No.
You can pay people to do your thing, but like that missing ingredient is so essential, I think, in music in particular,
Mm.
because like you can feel it,
Mm.
like you can feel it coming through an email.
Mm.
Like it's just, do is this authentic? Does
Yeah.
like it's, I think it's absolutely essential. And so I've never minded, like doing whatever I could, like being independent and trying to keep that. I've never minded, like, even though that means, like oftentimes I'm doing something that I don't know how to do,
Mm.
and in more ways than one, I'm certain that I'm doing it right, poorly. Like it's just like, you're just gonna have to forgive me for this, because without this, the other thing don't happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But no, totally. And I think that's really valid. And going on, like, I've just been watching like some Willie and Waylon documentaries and stuff. And I was thinking, like, if they started today, they wouldn't have been given the time to get to Redheaded Stranger or Honky Tonk Heroes, because that was like 6, 7, 8 albums in their career. And it's like, that just isn't, like, no one grows people like that anymore in terms of the
yeah,
record label industry. They would have been dropped by like album 2. And it's
yeah,
crazy to see how that industry has gone, but also how independent artists like yourself have built a career and built a living off going your own way and being independent, because you may not be getting obviously help from the labels, but you own all your own songs, which is a
yeah,
huge thing. And it's, you get the final say on everything, as opposed to, having to cut your hair and sound like whoever or do whatever you need to do that
right,
the label will try and force you to do.
yeah, yeah. No, like, yeah, it's it's strange, because like, I think the music industry, the way it is right now, like all those main highways like you're talking about, they still exist, but they're in pretty major disrepair.
Mm.
Like, I mean, like there's not that rocket sled to stardom that there used
No.
to be, or like what we've got instead, sort of metaphorically building in my head, is just a lot of side roads and back roads, like on which there are a lot less people. Like so, like, if that's your drive, like just to get into the big shiny lights, then it's harder than ever. But like there's plenty of life happening, like off to the side here,
Yeah.
like, so I've been very content to just, like, dive in there
Mm.
and kick around in the backwoods, like sing for whoever shows up,
Yeah.
you know?
No, exactly. And with A Life in Trade, it's already, isn't it? Like, if, or when, not if, when the Kickstarter is fully funded in 20
Yeah,
days, that
yeah,
email is going out and that record is out in the world, at least digitally, for the time being, until
yeah,
the funds come through and you can produce it on vinyl and stuff.
yep.
So how long has that record been created and kind of sitting there for?
Well, I mean, it depends on how, where you call it, like,
Mm.
because there's no great work that is ever finished,
Yeah.
merely abandoned, like, so, like, yeah, like, I I hesitate even to say it, but like, I would love to, continue to put finishing touches on it
Mm.
forever. But really, I think, as far as like the finished work that it is, or like we've had that um for a couple of months now.
Mm.
Like, it's just, like, sat on it for long. Like, is it done? Let's listen one more time. Is it done? And we finally landed it. Yeah, it's time to go. So yeah, the music part of the record is done.
Mm.
Like, and yeah, and so, yeah, just as soon as, like you say, as soon as I get the money to actually execute the plan that we've got in place, which has been, like, putting the plan together has been the last couple of months,
Mm.
like, and so as soon as I get the funds to execute that plan, then I can send it out into the world and let it live where it's gonna.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that, because like, it came together. and I think we broke some new ground. I'm excited to see what people think about it.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited. Like I've been a fan of your work for a long time. I'm really excited to, because I have Kickstarter. I've put my money where my mouth is. I'm not just empty promises. I've like
Thank you.
backed it, and I'm really excited to listen to it. But with kind of saying you've taken things further and stuff, has there been anything in your mind specifically from like the songwriting or the production perspective that's kind of taken it and made it like the record it is now?
Well, I gotta still got my friend Mike Savino, the Tall Trees, for his influence on this, because I mean, in addition to like having like chops as a musician, which he has endless talent and ability for, like he was also like a steady hand on keeping the direction of the album moving in the way that we had said in the first, we had a lot, a lot of time swinging hammers and putting the studio together, time to talk about like, all right, well, when we make this record, what do we want to do with it? What are we shooting for here? Like that's always been the case with the other recordings and whatnot. But with my hand on the wheel, I'd get excited about, concepts, like a thing, or like hear something and chase it down, like go that direction because I could, and that's a lot of how, like the other records came together, and a lot of, a lot of the reputation that I have now for sort of genre bending and just sort of taking what I need from one thing or another. And with Mike, that was, he was able to, like sort of funnel that in a way that I don't think it has been before. And really kind of maintain that original direction that we had for the thing. So yeah, it's exciting.
Cool.
So
So I don't want to take up too much of your time. We've already had like 2 malfunctions and stuff, and you're a busy guy. But just before we kind of get to the end of it, what's your plans? Obviously, you're going to release a record and promote it. Have you toured over Europe and this way before?
No. The closest I've ever come to that idea is I ended up busking on like on the sidewalks every now on just a trip that I had and when I went sort of kicking around, but like nothing ever formally or organized in any sort of capacity. But it's on the list of things to do for sure. Like a bucket list of like, well, who do I know? How could I put this together? So yeah, that's one of the big hopes for this this coming push.
All right, man. And then are you planning on touring more strategically and specifically in the new year? Because we've only got 20 days left of
20 days year. Left of this year. And so it's the tour schedule is gonna be ramping up again, just as part of the whole release plan, because in addition to just live music, the whole thing is kind of all geared together. So if you can get excitement together for an album, excitement together for a record or whatever, then that translate into all right, well then venues get excited too, and actually help out with the getting folks out to the show and whatnot. And it seems to be about that the right time for that too, because it's been fits and starts over here for sure, as far as what getting back to live music looks like and how it operates. And so, and by now it seems like we've sort of smoothed most of the tablecloths out. I'm sure there'll be speed bumps here and there, but it feels like the right time to start gearing that thing up. So there'll be some touring around previous to the record, and then after it's out, obviously we'll just keep it rolling.
keep it rolling indeed. And thank you so much for listening to episode 57 of the Rogue Country podcast. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and rate and follow on whatever podcast platform you're on. It always helps. And head over to Pierce Eden's Kickstarter, A Life in Trade. The link is in the description of this podcast, and it's going to be across our social media. Back that album. You will not regret it. And in the meantime, keep supporting the things you love. Keep loving the things you love. And until next time, peace.